Imagine someone recommending a story. They tell you it's emotional, that the characters feel real, that the ending stayed with them long after they finished. A story that made them think differently. A story they still remember years later. Then they tell you where it came from. A free-to-play mobile game. Suddenly, something feels different. Not because the story changed, not because the writing changed. Only one thing changed. Your expectation. And that's something we rarely talk about, because when we discuss great storytelling, we often imagine the same things. A massive budget, a premium price tag, a console exclusive, a critically acclaimed RPG with years of development behind it. We associate quality with the things surrounding the story before we ever experience the story itself. Meanwhile, mobile games have spent years building a very different reputation. A reputation of shallow narratives, aggressive monetization, and experiences designed around keeping players engaged, rather than emotionally invested. Because of that reputation, many people approach mobile games already expecting less. Not because they played them, but because they already believe they know what they're going to be. And that's what makes this interesting. Because the question isn't, does every mobile game have a great story? Obviously not. The same way not every console-exclusive blockbuster movie or best-selling novel is automatically great. The more interesting question is, can we truly judge a story objectively when our expectations are already influencing the answer before the story even begins? And surprisingly, Wuthering Waves might be one of the best examples of this. There's a comforting idea that we judge stories purely based on their quality. The good writing is recognized, the bad writing is criticized. Simple, but psychology tells us something different. Because before we experience anything, our brains are already making predictions. We're constantly asking, what kind of experience is this going to be? And those predictions influence how we interpret everything that comes afterward. This is known as expectation bias. Expectation bias is the tendency for our expectations to influence our actual experience. It's why the exact same product can feel different depending on what we believe about it beforehand. If someone tells you a wine is expensive, your brain is already preparing itself to experience something special. The expectation changes the experience. Stories work the same way. Imagine hearing about a game with a massive budget. A console exclusive, years of development, cinematic trailers, a huge marketing campaign. Before playing it, many people already expect something meaningful. They expect memorable characters. They expect emotional moments. They expect a story worth talking about. Now compare that with hearing. It's a free-to-play mobile gacha game. For many players, that phrase immediately creates a different image.
It's a gacha game? Then the story only exists to introduce new characters. It's a gacha game? Then the dialogue will feel like filler. It's a gacha game? Then the emotional moments are just there to encourage players to spend money.
And notice something important. Those assumptions did not come from the story. They came from everything we've learned about that type of game before we've even started playing. And once those expectations are created, another psychological effect begins. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our tendency to notice information that supports what we already believe, while ignoring information that challenges it. Here's a simple example. Imagine two different games have the exact same problem. Both have a slow opening chapter. In a highly anticipated AAA RPG, players might say, "Give it time, the story gets better." But if a free-to-play mobile game has that same slow beginning, some players might say, "This proves the writing was never good." The flaw is identical, but the interpretation changes. Because we're not only judging the story, we're judging whether the story matches our initial expectations. And then there's the halo effect. The halo effect is when positive or negative impression influences how we view everything else. A game with incredible visuals, expensive production, and cinematic presentation can create the impression that everything about it must also be high quality, including the writing. Meanwhile, a game associated with technical problems, an unpopular genre, or a negative reputation can have every part of it judged more harshly. A weak first impression can affect how we see everything that follows. And it's not because people are intentionally unfair. It's because our brains are designed to create shortcuts. They're constantly asking, "Have I seen something like this before?" Then they use the answer to predict what comes next. Most of the time, these shortcuts help us. But when it comes to stories, they can prevent us from seeing what's actually in front of us. And that's where Wuthering Waves becomes interesting. Because before many players ever met Rover, before they explored Huang Long, before they experienced the later parts of the story, the game already had a label attached to it. Free to play? Gacha. Mobile. And for some players, those three words were enough to define the experience before the story ever had the chance to define itself. Of course, none of these assumptions appeared out of nowhere. Reputations are rarely created by accident. They're built through repeated experiences. And if we're being fair, the mobile gaming industry played a major role in creating the expectations people have today. For many years, mobile games were not designed around telling one unforgettable story. They were designed around keeping players coming back tomorrow. The priority was not always emotional investment. It was an engagement, retention, creating a reason to open the game again. And that philosophy shaped the way many mobile games were designed. Daily quests became routines. Log in, collect rewards, spend stamina, complete objectives, repeat tomorrow. Limited time events became cycles. A new character arrives. A short story introduces them. Players become attached. Then the next character takes their place, and the cycle continues. Now, these systems aren't automatically bad. In fact, they're extremely effective. They allow games to receive updates years after release. They help developers continue supporting a live service. They create communities that stay active long after launch. The problem begins when these systems start influencing the storytelling itself. When a story has to continue indefinitely, it becomes difficult for anything to truly end. Characters cannot always experience permanent change. Conflicts cannot always reach a final conclusion. The world has to remain open for the next update, the next event, the next character release. And because of that, many players began feeling like some stories existed less as complete narratives and more as vehicles for continued engagement. Character appears. They receive just enough development to become interesting. Then they disappear until the next event needed them. Important moments were stretched out. Major conflicts were delayed. Emotional payoffs were sometimes interrupted by the needs of the live service structure. And over time, players began noticing a pattern. The writing started to feel disposable. Not because every mobile game was poorly written, but because many experiences trained players to expect the story to be secondary. Dialogue existed to explain mechanics. Characters existed to encourage attachment. Narrative existed to support the next update. And when enough games follow the same formula, people naturally begin recognizing it. That's not irrational. That's pattern recognition. Our brains learn from experience. If someone has played dozens of mobile games where the story felt like an afterthought, it's understandable that they approach the next one with skepticism. The problem is what happens after that. Because once a reputation becomes attached to an entire platform or medium, every new game inherits it, whether it deserves it or not. A game with weak writing reinforces the stereotype. A game with strong writing has to fight against it. And that creates an interesting challenge for games like Wuthering Waves. So where does that leave us? If mobile games have earned some of the criticism they receive, does that mean every story released on a phone is automatically less meaningful? I don't think so. Because the moment we judge a story based only on the platform it exists on, we stop judging the story. We start judging the packaging. Think about the stories that have survived generations. Some began as spoken legends, passed from one person to another. Others existed as books. Then there were plays, then movies, then television shows, then video games. The medium changed, but the reason people connected with them remained the same: the story itself. Shakespeare doesn't become less meaningful because someone reads his work instead of watching it performed. A novel doesn't lose its emotional power because someone listens to it through headphones. And a game does not become less thoughtful simply because it can run on a phone. The platform is the vehicle. The story is the journey.
What are you two plotting in Renacita?
Oh, dear madam. Let's leave some mystery for the next chapter, shall we?
When writers create a story, they aren't asking, what device will someone hold while experiencing this? They're asking much older questions. Why does this character want what they want? What are they afraid of losing? What are they willing to sacrifice? How does this world shape the people living inside of it? What idea will remain after the story ends? Those questions have existed for centuries, and they don't belong to any specific platform. A memorable character is not memorable because of their resolution. An emotional scene is not powerful because of its frame rate. A meaningful conflict does not become deeper because it appears on a larger screen. Those things can enhance a story, but they are not what creates one. Good storytelling comes from something much simpler. Characters we understand. Conflicts we care about, themes that makes us think, moments that feel earned. The things that stay with us after the screen goes dark. Those are not hardware specifications. They're human experiences. And that's not to say presentation doesn't matter. Of course it does. A powerful console can create incredible visuals. A high-end PC can deliver breathtaking worlds. Production value can elevate a story. But presentation and storytelling are not the same thing. A beautiful game can still have a forgettable narrative. A simple game can still create memories that last for years. Because the emotional impact never came from the hardware. It came from the humanity behind it. And this brings us back to Wuthering Waves. Not because it's a flawless story, or because every criticism is unfair. Some criticisms are completely valid. The opening experience and launch issues shaped how many players viewed the game. But that's exactly what makes it interesting. Wuthering Waves illustrates how powerful first impressions can be.
Especially on mobile, but it looks to be different for a lot of people. Mobile specifically, it's glitchy, the frame rates are really bad, it's crashing constantly, black screens. It is not performing the way it should be performing.
At launch, the conversation centered on technical issues, awkward localization, and an opening that struggled to connect players with its world and characters. These weren't imaginary complaints. They were real experiences that influenced how the game was perceived. And first impressions tend to last, even after many of those issues were addressed. Opinions about the story remained unchanged. One reason is anchoring bias. Anchoring bias is our tendency to rely heavily on our first impression, using it as the standard for everything that follows. We see it everywhere. A bad first day at work, one disappointing restaurant visit, or an awkward first conversation can shape our long-term perception. Stories are no different. If a game's opening leaves a negative impression, later improvements have to compete with that initial experience. For many players, Wuthering Waves became the game with the weak launch. Once that label sticks, it's difficult to change. The opposite also happens. Games that launch to widespread praise often receive more generous interpretations of their flaws. A slow chapter becomes slow burn. And confusing moments are seen as intentional subtlety. The writing may be the same, but our expectations shape how we interpret it. That's what makes Wuthering Waves such an interesting case. Some players remember its rough launch. Others remember how much it improved. Some connected with its characters, while others never did. None of those experiences are inherently wrong. What's fascinating is that, for many players, their opinion was formed before the story had the chance to fully unfold. And once a first impression becomes a lasting memory, changing that perception can be harder than changing the game itself. Perhaps that's the greatest challenge ever-evolving live service game faces. Not just improving its story, but convincing players to return and see how much it has changed.
And if it fails, the cockpit becomes a coffin. Is that a chance you're willing to take?
So, after everything we've discussed, what actually makes a story good? It's a question that writers, critics, and philosophers have debated for centuries. Yet despite their different answers, one idea remains consistent. People don't love stories because they're perfect. They love stories because they mean something. Think about your favorite game, movie, or book. It probably isn't flawless. It may have weak moments or missed opportunities, yet you still remember it. Why? Because it made you feel something. Psychologists describe part of this experience as narrative transportation. The moment we stop simply observing a story and begin emotionally living alongside it. The characters' victories feel like ours. Their losses become personal. Their struggles resonate with us. Emotions don't require something to be real. It just had to feel real. That emotional connection isn't built through spectacle alone. It's built through empathy. Memorable characters aren't defined by strength or intelligence, but by their hopes, fears, regrets, and flaws. They feel human. That's why we often remember quiet conversations and small choices more than the biggest action scenes. Those moments reveal who the characters truly are and reflect something we recognize in ourselves. Another important idea is identification. The more we see ourselves in the character, the more invested we become in their journey. Sometimes a character faces a fear, makes a difficult choice, or searches for something we've experienced ourselves. At that point, the story becomes personal. That's also why people can experience the same story and reach completely different conclusions. Stories aren't shaped only by what's written. They're shaped by the experiences, values, and emotions each person brings to them. And that's what makes conversations about storytelling so interesting. They're never just about the story. They're also about us.
Should be fast. You're awake.
Let me see. Let me see.
This was never really about defending Wuthering Waves. It's about questioning the assumptions we bring into every story we experience. Because a game being free doesn't automatically make it shallow. A game being expensive doesn't automatically make it meaningful. Stories still have to earn our attention. They still have to earn our emotions. They should be criticized when they fail. And they should be appreciated when they succeed. But before either of those things happen, they deserve the chance to be experienced for what they actually are, not what we expect them to be. Because maybe great storytelling is always about something much simpler. The feeling we carry after finishing a story quest.